everyone. I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. I have Kristen Hayward with me. She is a doctorate nurse midwife in Maine, has an amazing independent women's health clinic. We'll put a link down below to her prior conversation. About a year ago, we talked about her amazing women's health clinic practice and opening. So I'd love for her to give updates on it and some exciting news that we have that we'll talk about once she introduces herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Hayward, as Leslie mentioned, and I'm a certified nurse midwife. I opened my practice June of 2020, which is kind of funny. I have a sweet banker patient who tells me, you know, if you can make it through that, you can make it through anything.
You'll have, just like everybody brags about their first dollar, you'll just put survived COVID. Like, that's all I gotta say. I opened at the beginning of COVID.
Right, exactly. Of course, when I started planning, COVID wasn't a thing, but I was just way too deep into it. I'm just gonna go for it. And I haven't looked back. So yeah, I didn't know about Midwifery Business Consultation when I first opened, but I was so glad to learn about it. I think it was like late 2021 is when I met Leslie. And I remember our first meeting and I was just like so amazed, like, can you just like come spend a week with me? And eventually, yeah, it was like so helpful. Over the course of a bunch of meetings, she got all my questions answered. It's just when you first starting out, there's just so limited resources as far as like there's nobody around to ask, there's nobody around you possibly doing this. There's not a lot that you can Google, so it's just it can be very intimidating for midwives, but it really has also been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And over the course of now almost 3 years, I've just grown. I've added a lactation consultant. I have a nurse practitioner starting in a few weeks. She'll be specializing in weight loss. So it's just all very exciting.
Oh, I'm so excited for you, Kristen. That's the cool part of this consulting stuff is we get to midwife the midwives. And I know you're going to tease that Kristen is joining our consulting team to add more services for Women's Health Clinic because Deidre and I have been getting quite busy and there's only so many hours in the day. And Kristen's in the thick of running a Women's Health Clinic. Yes, I do it a little bit on the sideline, but it's not a full scale business operation. So I'm really excited about what Kristen has to offer and expand. And it's just been exciting to watch you grow the last year. And these resources are so needed. And so, yeah, if you want to talk when you started your practice compared to now, what resources were out there and what would you have wished to have seen?
I honestly wish that I had known about specifically midwifery business consultation. There are other things out there, but I just didn't really feel like that it fit what I needed. And then also just like resources as far as like forms and consents and like all the things that you need starting up. And it's really just super important when you are starting out to make sure that you surround yourself with the experts in your community, which I did. I've got an accountant and an attorney, but the business consultant piece was definitely missing.
Yeah, you can get a small business consultant, but when you have to educate them what a midwife is and the day-to-day challenges and regulations, we're a specialty on top of specialty. And so, yeah, Kristen has been doing awesome with her service line. And sometimes we just brainstorm. I know eventually you just got to the month-to-month maintenance period where you'd have these amazing list of questions. And I just give you a different angle to look at it and think about it because I lived and breathed what you're doing and understand it. So I think at one point you were like, okay, I need to outsource to ultrasound. And I'm like, but she's down the hallway. Why do you need to get somebody on site? Just make a win-win situation with this person down your hallway. So sometimes just having some fresh eyes and angles was always helpful with brainstorming and someone that really gets what you're doing.
It's so incredibly helpful. Just to get somebody to help you think outside the box, think differently about something. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It really helps you give a new perspective for your business.
Yeah. Well, and especially a women's health clinic, I get conversations all the time where nurse midwives, nurse practitioners, they want to open a business. They want to open a practice. They don't want to be on call. I mean, that's the stigma. They're embarrassed. I mean, you and I talked about this in a personal story on the sidelines, that stigma. I can't announce I'm a midwife because I'm not catching babies right now. We have such psychology we put ourselves through because we're not fitting this box of what a midwife has to be to society. And so, I think that part of it is helping people through the business planning and what potential service lines and really utilizing everything within the scope of a midwife, because some people don't realize, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. So, Kristen, what services are you currently offering with your practice?
So I'm currently offering GYN services. So I do a lot of annual exams, pap smears, contraception. But I see women of all ages. So from adolescents to, I think my oldest patient she's like in her mid 80s. So it really, yeah, I find it so rewarding, really taking care of women across the lifespan.
Do you do a lot with the primary care, or do you closely collaborate with an FP in the area?
So my patients have a primary care provider as well. I do tell them, like, because primary care, there's such a shortage in my area. I do tell them, if you have something going on, just like let me know. And I can tell you if I can, see you for that or not. UTIs, there's stuff that's certainly
minor, colds versus an asthma attack. Yeah, and that's part of making really good guidelines. Just because it's part of your scope, you are running the practice, you are running the business, you get to determine your service line versus you're employed somewhere. They just put it on your schedule and you just see them.
Absolutely. It's huge. And also, when you're employed by somebody, typically they're telling you how many minutes you have, depending on like why the patient booked, new patient established. And, when you're the business owner, you can decide like how much time you spend with each patient, which has been huge for both me and women in the community, I feel like.
Yeah. So, nope, I'm excited, Kristen. I mean, part of that business planning is like people get so overwhelmed, like, okay, I want to start this practice, but being in network, out of network, what is insurance processing like? What services do I offer? Do I buy a building? Do I rent? Do I make my office Monday, Friday? Do I make it 5 days a week? Like, there's just so many overwhelming questions. And so part of your goal, Kristen, joining our team is to help more of the nurse midwives and nurse practitioners across the country, just handhold them through those questions. So I would love to hear from you, like, what were the benefits to being an owner of a women's health clinic for your family? I know you got a young kiddo compared to working for somebody else.
It's been huge. I've always had an interest in business. And I always kind of felt like I would eventually go out on my own. I ended up doing it a little bit sooner than I thought because I did have a baby, and having a husband who's a lobster fisherman who leaves at 3 o'clock in the morning to go for work, and then I'm still on call. It made things pretty challenging. So I had to find a fix. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to make my own hours. And just knowing that I am in control of my schedule, even for when he gets bigger, is like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders, because I know I won't miss anything. Like, I will be there. But also the beauty of it is, if I do end up, bringing back prenatal care and birth in my practice, like, I can do that too. So I love that I have choices, I have flexibility, and independence.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it was the frustration of like, I'd be at the hospital of like, you move too slow. I want this change. I want it changed now. And it takes 2 weeks or 2 years. And I can just change it on the policy and I can pivot. And that's, I think some people don't realize with COVID and all these, healthcare is so in trouble. We are versatile. We can pivot quickly. We can adapt. We can change based on new regulations, where these big Goliath healthcare organizations, they've 20 layers of organizational approval to go through. So I think we're going to have a lot more private practices coming back. And you gave some perfect examples of like, you can decide next week, okay, I'm going to start offering prenatal care. You don't have to ask anybody. You could just choose what you want to do and what services you want to offer.
One of the projects I took on as a new midwife was getting nitrous oxide in our OB unit. And I thought, oh, like, this will be a breeze. It took us 2 years. And I was, felt like such a huge success when I finally did get it implemented. But I'm just like, wow, like, there's just so much red tape. There's so many different departments you need to get permission from, different people. Yep. And yeah, when you're out on your own, you can make change happen so much.
Oh yeah, you want, like, I'm thinking of a birth center, even though you don't have one now. You want nitrous oxide, you order it, put your policy, and it's there next week. Like, okay, we've now got nitrous oxide.
Absolutely. So I just felt like, and I still feel like, being on my own, I can just make, honestly, just like women's health care more comprehensive for women. And like, if I have a patient, I like to ask all my patients, especially my new patients, do you have any suggestions for me? Like anything I can improve on, anything I can make easier, anything I can make better. And some of the best suggestions have come from my patients. And I'm just like, great, boom, let's do it. And people say later on, like, oh, I love that you do this one little thing. I'm like, a patient suggested that to me. And I implemented it and I keep doing it. So.
Well, you're bringing back what medicine used to be. I mean, that's just a lost art of the local provider, I mean, people want a relationship. They don't just want an assembly line in the urgent care because their person can't see them. So you have created, I mean, you can choose to be cash, you can choose to be a network, you can choose to pivot, and you can choose to take next week off because you want vacation, and you can choose to just switch. But yeah, that relationship building. Kristen, what would you say has been the biggest challenge? Because I know I don't want us to be just all one side. What has been the biggest challenge of opening your practice?
The biggest probably is just trusting yourself to just take that leap and do it, because it's just not common anymore. So to just know that you have leveraged the experts around you, you have taken a long time to plan, you've thought about, all the possible scenarios, but also realizing you can't plan for everything either.
Yeah.
So you
but
have
plan
to
enough so you have a good exit strategy for more common things, because you don't want to get into the analysis paralysis for sure. Then you're like, oh, 10 years. See, I didn't start it because this might happen. The aliens might come. I'm like, yep, okay.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so no, Kristen, I can't rave enough about, we're expanding our consulting team. Deidre and I have been doing it together the last year, and the intention was to join 3 more people to the team for birth center, home birth, women's health clinic to help fill the needs. And we've just met some amazing people. So I'm excited. Everybody's going to see some series of interviews with all our new consultants joining our team. So Kristen is now on the website. And if you need support with women's health services, you can see me, you can see Kristen. She's she's an amazing person to work with, and the knowledge she has, and she challenges me a lot. I'm like, we were just chatting before the recording, and I was like, I didn't know that, because now she's in the thick of like regulations and how to navigate some of these things for insurance coverage of like IUDs and different things. So having someone that's running day to day a women's health clinic is just huge part of your business consulting team.
It is. And I would just like to remind everybody that midwife means with woman. Like, it doesn't mean catching babies, even though that is like a huge reason why a lot of us go into midwifery, and it's a big part of what a lot of us do. I still feel like a midwife every single day. I was on a main affiliate meeting a few months ago, and there were a bunch of students, and I was telling them what I did, and they were just like blown away. They're like, I didn't know a midwife could do that. I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of our job and our inspiration, these videos. Like, you can start anything. You can create an invention, you can midwife the midwives. Like you said, it's with women. It's not catching babies, creating businesses that empower women to be more successful. I mean, with business consulting, I feel like I'm midwifing all the time. I'm like, okay, breathe. And I know you're nauseous. We're in the early stages. Like I can, you'll figure out these little nuances that we can relate our business consulting to stages of pregnancy, and like, okay, you're doing a consulting meeting. It's okay. It's kind of like this and it's kind of like that. And, but having someone to handhold you through opening your practice, and not making some of these silly little mistakes that our goal is to accelerate the success of more independent midwives, nurse practitioners, private practices across the country, because we desperately need them. We desperately do. And I don't want to make more practices. I want to stress they're sustainable. There's a good work-life balance. I mean, Kristen, you know my background. I was burnt out pretty bad in 2017, and I don't want any midwife if we can create good. So Kristen, when you do consulting services, kind of just talk high level. It's not just business planning, but what are the other things part of the services you and I brainstormed about?
Yeah, so definitely, answering any questions that the client has, really just like getting to the core of what you need. So we're not wasting time. What do you feel like is your purpose in life? What makes you happy? What kind of business do you want to start? Starting from the very, very beginning, to make sure that we really tailor our time to what you specifically need. What are your challenges? Like, what's going well? Really just getting to the bottom of everything and going over everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it too, I mean, too many times people say, well, I'm picking a business plan because I know I can make money this way. Because that's how most people think is, I won't even go this direction because it's not going to make me money. I was like, I promise you, we can make you money at anything. So we leave the budgets and the financial projections to the end. I don't want you to care, like, how much time do you want to spend with them? How much? If our budget doesn't work, we add ancillary services. We add the leverage of other people to your practice to make the difference. If you want to spend an hour with your clients and be small, boutique and cash, we play around with the numbers towards the end. I promise you, we can make anything work. So that's part of that learning, is just what makes you happy. This is what do you want your dream job? What do you want it to look like? Who do you want to serve? We help a lot with like retiring midwives and telemedicine and like traveling the country and the world, where, I mean, that's a very common thing. Maybe we'll have to add a consulting service line to that. But like, I get excited when people want niche businesses, when they come to me and be like, I bet nobody's talked to you about this. I get excited because these are things that are filling the gaps of what midwives are looking for. So, well, I'm excited, Kristen, for you to join us. So yes, definitely we'll put her link in description down below, and just reach out, have a conversation. Her and I both have discovery calls out there, and we want to help you any direction. We've got people that are just starting midwifery school and thinking about it. We have people in the thick of their planning process, people that have been open for a long time and need to pivot because they're just not happy. Like, Kristen and I can help you wherever you're at.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, Kristen.
Thank you, Leslie.